What's going on, everyone? We're back at it again with another terrarium build. In today's video, we're going to do something a little bit different than what you're used to seeing on my channel. Typically, I'll highly edit my videos and I'll have voiceovers and oftentimes music. I don't want to do anything like that in this video because I really just want to get engrossed in nature, and I'll talk more about that in just a second. What I mean is that I don't want to edit too much out of this video, so if you hear wind rustling through the microphone or leaves crunching under my feet or all these birds around me, that's exactly what I want to portray in this video. The reason I don't want to make a video like this is that I believe that the sights that you see out here, the sounds that you hear, the things that you smell, even though I can't capture them on video, they're all an integral part of making a terrarium. Obviously, they're more than that, but whenever you're making terrarium, I feel that tapping into these things and understanding and appreciating them, they will just help you to make your terrariums and take your artwork to the next level. So I found a nice secluded spot of the woods over here. I've actually never explored this part of them, so I kind of wanted to do something a little bit different for this video, but we're going to get started here making the terrarium. I have all the essentials, of course. I got my Terrarium Toolbox here, and then of course we have my container. Here's something that I've never actually shown on camera before. It's my Terrarium Toolbox. This is a really great thing to have, especially if you're making as many terrariums as I do. But I have all of my essentials in here. I've got gravel for the false bottom. I've got scissors, my tweezers. I got containers to get mosses and that sort of thing. More tweezers up top here. I've got various things. So really anything that I could possibly need to make a terrarium, it's right here. With that out of the way, why don't we go ahead and make the false bottom in our terrarium? What I have here is some gravel, I mentioned these earlier, and then I also have some carbon fiberglass window screen mesh. As I've explained a number of times, the false bottom serves as the foundation of our terrarium. And as with most things in life, if you have a strong foundation, you're going to have success. So here, as I said, I got the gravel. We're going to put that in first. I'm not going to use all of it here. I brought a little bit extra just in case I needed it. And then of course we also have my window screen mesh. I'm going to drop that in there. Next I'm going to get my tweezers and kind of even out this mesh a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, just so long as it's covering most of the gravel. And all that this is going to do is prevent dirt and other organics from getting down into the false bottom. Obviously some still will, but not as much as if we just have the gravel. I'm actually going to sprinkle a little bit of gravel on top of this just to keep it in place for the next part. Next I want to grab some bark from over in here, and I'll just grab a few sections of it. So I've got 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4, and 5. That should be sufficient. And what I'm going to do is just push these leaves aside and sort of dig around until I get to the substrate underneath. And whenever you're making a terrarium, you want a substrate that has a lot of different components in it. Mainly so that you optimize your drainage, and that's why I like to dig under the leaves, because there's little bits of leaves. We got a bunch of dead roots in here, twigs, bark, a bunch of different things aside from just dirt, the brown stuff that you see in here. It's a mixture of things, and that's going to provide the best results for our terrarium. Now, if you remember, I grabbed this bark from earlier. What I'm going to do is just break it up into as small pieces as I can. This too is going to diversify our substrate, as I would with my typical terrarium substrate. I mix in orchid bark with it, and this is going to serve as that. Break up the rest of this. Probably don't even need, yeah, I probably don't even actually need all that, but I'm just going to rip out this dirt here. Just really mix it together. So I'm pleased with this mix here. I think it has enough in it that it's going to do exactly what we want it to do. So why don't we go and put it in the terrarium. For those of you who've been following my channel for a while, you know that I typically add a charcoal layer in between the false bottom and the substrate layer, or actually mix it into the substrate. Unfortunately, I forgot it at home, so we're going to have to cut that part out. Basically, it's best practices to use it. It will help keep your terrarium fresh, and I highly recommend it, but in this case, I don't have it, so I'm not going to use it. So we'll just put the dirt right on in. So I think that should be enough. Before we leave this spot and go look for some plants, I'm going to grab just a little bit of extra dirt here. We might need it in a little bit whenever we start to scape the terrarium, so I just got a little bit here, and let's go find some plants. So I was walking past this area and I noticed something incredible underneath it here. Let me give you guys a closer look. So as I said, I was walking past and I noticed these leaves, and I had to take a step back and look at them real quick. And in case you guys didn't know, I live in Pennsylvania, and we actually have upwards of 60 species of native orchids. And what this is the downy rattlesnake plantain orchid. Now, I definitely want to take some of this. It's going to be too large for that terrarium we're making right now, so we're going to circle back and I'll get some of this. But I thought it was a really cool find, and just something that you don't see every day back here. As I was walking around looking for my plants, I was also looking for some hardscape materials. In case you're unfamiliar with what hardscape means, essentially it's landscape elements that you'll use in a terrarium. So in this case I'm using wood, it could also be stones, twigs, whatever. And what I'm going to do is just kind of break a few sections of this off because I really like how it looks, and I think that it could add a really neat look to the terrarium. Now that I got my hardscape elements selected, I'm going to put these into the terrarium before we plant it. Now you can really do it in any order that you like, but the hardscape tends to dictate how your terrarium is going to pan out, so to speak. So I really recommend doing your hardscape first and then planting around it, but you can do whatever you want. You'll notice that all of these elements are very directional, so it's kind of easy to make a cool hardscape with them. So I'm going to have to break up these pieces to get them to fit into the terrarium, but I think that something like this could look pretty cool. Let's see. These bugs keep flying in my face. Yes, I think something like this is kind of what I want to go for. And so with this sort of thing, it's also probably better to keep it simple. You don't need to go too crazy with it. You can get a really cool look with just a few pieces, and I think that I'm just about there. I really like what I did here. It's probably hard to see from that angle, but we'll get a better angle as we put the plants in here. But I think it looks pretty cool, and it's going to make a nice layout. Now I think we're about ready to start planting this terrarium. What I have is a rattlesnake fern. I have this in a few of my other terrariums and it doesn't seem to grow too large and it seems to do fairly well. So I wanted to get one of these when I saw it, and we will also likely add some isopods. They'll help trim it back and keep it from growing too large, hopefully. We also got some liverwort here. You saw me pick this off of that one dead tree laying on the ground. We also got a little bit of sphagnum moss. This is a great background plant, even though it is a moss. It can grow fairly tall. I'm not sure if I want to use this or not, but I got it just in case. If not, we can go and put it back where we found it. And finally, we've got a little bit of thread moss. And this is a cool, really fine moss, but it does nice in terrariums. So I got a little bit of this for the foreground. As you would expect, we'll start out with the background, and that would be the rattlesnake fern, of course. So we'll put it right back in here, and I want it to arc over top of this stick, so we got to get it in just the right location. That looks pretty neat. And I think that we will use some of this sphagnum moss after all, so I'm going to get a few sections of it here, and we'll plant it right on into the background. I'll turn it around so that you can see it. Now that we got the fern and the sphagnum moss in place, we'll add the thread moss and the liverwort. And as you can see, it's in a pretty large patch right now. I'm actually going to break it up into smaller sections to make it a little bit more manageable to plant, but after I put it in there, it's going to look like a single piece again. So we'll start with the liverwort here. And I'll get a little piece of the thread moss because I kind of want them to grow together so that way it looks a little bit more texturally interesting. So we'll get some thread moss over in here. Overall, I really like how this terrarium turned out. I kept it nice and simple, and I know sometimes it's really easy to want to make things complex because nature is complex, but if you think of nature on this small of a scale, it's really not that complex. It's just on the large scale, there's so much going on. However, we can't seal this thing up just yet. We gotta add the water. Down here we have a little stream. It's not really running that fast right now because we haven't had a good rain in a while. But I got a little pipette here and I'm just gonna get a little bit of water from here. Alright, so we got some water here in my pipette, and yes, here in America we do pronounce it pipette. A lot of people get on me about it, but that is how we pronounce it here in the States. So what I'm going to do is just disperse it onto the moss here in little drops. At this point, we're basically done. The last few things that I want to do is clean off the glass real quick, and then we'll go and find some isopods. But I just have a paper towel here with my tweezers, and I'm gonna gently clean off the inside of the glass here of any debris. So it took me a little while to find a tree like this, but whenever I'm looking for isopods, I try to find a tree that has bark just about ready to peel off, just like that, nice and easy. And as you can see, there's one right here. If I can get him, looks like a skirted isopod, yep. And we've got ourselves a little garden millipede here. Why don't we get him as well? And I'm just putting them in this container here. And we'll get a closer look before we add them into the terrarium. Some more millipedes. So we got a few garden millipedes and some skirted isopods. Although the terrarium's a little bit on the small side, it should be just perfect for these guys. I might not put all of them in there, but why don't we go ahead and put them in. And finally, it's time to seal it up. And there you have it, a terrarium made completely out in the wilderness. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did and you stuck through till the very end, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it, if it's something that you'd like to see again, because I enjoyed making this video and I would gladly do it again. A lot of people, my haters that is, comment on my videos saying, what's the point of this? And what they mean is, what is the point of my projects, the things that I show on my channel? And really, I guess at the heart of it, there is no point. But if I had to answer that question, it's because of all of this right here. By bringing nature indoors in the form of a terrarium or a vivarium, it's an extension of the things that I enjoy, that I find peace in, nature that is. And that's also why I largely advocate the bioactive setups and the naturalistic setups, because if we're going to keep animals indoors, and this is what they're coming from, we better do a decent job at somewhat replicating it. Obviously nothing that we're going to make is this good, but when we make the naturalistic or bioactive setup, the animals act as though they were in a natural setup, and sometimes it's pretty close. So that's really why I advocate the things that I advocate, why I do the things that I do, and why I share my projects with you guys, because I enjoy this stuff. I find great joy in it, and I just want to share it with you guys. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, you like stuff like this, you want to see more videos like this, definitely subscribe, hit the thumbs up as well. It greatly helps me to continue doing what I'm doing, and that's about all I gotta say. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.